Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From the Ground Up Real Time Issues and Real Time Solutions for MWBE and small businesses. We are so excited to have you join us for our first episode in the month of September, a very special month for someone here on the show. But we're excited that you're here. You know, we're here the first and third Tuesdays of the month. We've been here with you through the 2020 pandemic into 2021. And this season, really just excited to have you continue to tune in, meet our guests, get the information, real time issues with real time solutions. So, Queen Strategy Partners is a collaboration of three businesswomen who understood the power in working together: Nicole Valentine, Esquire, Danielle Douglas, and myself, Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant. So, we are excited about the way in which, when you work together, come together, great and wonderful things happen. And one of the most exciting parts of the shows for me is to introduce my beautiful dynamic co-host, the one, the only, the incredible Danielle Douglas. Over to you.
Well, thank you, Miss Dr. Stacey and C. Grant, for that wonderful introduction. And it's so good to see you all this morning. I hope you had a great Labor Day weekend. And now, today, Tuesday, we are on and popping because it's back to work. But even though summer is like officially over, it's not quite over. But we just change our mindsets. We are like, we are going into the end of the year and we just got to make it happen and achieve our goals. But guess what, folks? Even with all of that, we have to have some balance. And so today we want to focus on wellness for you as the business owner and your team, the folks working with you, because we know that we have to take a holistic approach. In this day and age, we are just work, 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 work. And we always chasing our day, feeling like we got so much to do, but we want you to focus on yourself as well. And so today we have two dynamic guests with us that is going to share their knowledge and their expertise about how you can maintain wellness for you and your team. So I'm going to pass it back to Miss Dr. Stacey and C. Grant so she can introduce our first guest.
Well, thank you so much, Danielle. This is going to be a great show. Before I introduce our first guest, make sure you share this out because what we're talking about today, everybody needs to hear it and will be very appreciative that you thought of them and shared this broadcast. So go on and share it out and let folks know that we are here from the ground up is live. So our first guest, Latanya Ponce, is the president and owner of Talent Mix Staffing. And it is a franchise that is tearing up New York City in a good way. It's an award-winning staffing and recruiting firm that places talented professionals into management, executive, technical, and administrative roles at some of the world's largest and most recognizable companies. Latanya is responsible for the strategic direction and leading all the operations, the people, the sales, and the brand awareness across the firm. She has a successful track record of managing large and complex corporate benefits. Somebody say benefits. Programs and strategic diversity initiatives for a global workforce. She was previously the corporate manager and head of diversity and inclusion for the former L3 Technologies in New York City. She serves as a board member of the International Franchise Association's Diversity Institute and is a member of the American Staffing Association's Women Leadership Council. She's also a member of the American Staffing Association, Staffing Industry, an analyst, Society of Human Resource Management. I mean, when does she sleep? And NYC SHRM. She has numerous awards and honors, and she's already had her company receive Best of Staffing Diamond by a rated company. I mean, she does not stop. She holds a master's degree in organizational management, a bachelor's in sociology, and a certification in diversity management. And she continues to lead what we see happening with the need for the right kind of workforce and staffing in our community. So congratulations to her as a top executive in corporate diversity, influential women in global diversity, and it goes on and on. But today she's bringing those expertise to From the Ground is Up. So let's give a round of applause to Latanya. And now over to you, Danielle, to introduce our next guest.
So I would like to introduce Miss Cynthia Jefferson. And I just have to tell you all this disclosure that Cynthia Jefferson is not only a colleague, but she is my SANS number 5. I was number 8 on at CLE. That's our line name. And she was my roommate junior and senior year. And our mothers have the same name. So Miss Cynthia Jefferson and I have a lot going on. We have a lot in common. But today she is here to share her expertise on wellness. And she is the owner of the Intentional Wellness Experience, which was founded in 2019 as a way to provide a venue in which wellness events, education, and experiences are more accessible to all. The goal is to bring fun, creativity, and most of all, intentional wellness to small companies, associations, communities, and even individuals who want to pursue a healthy life, mind, body, and soul. After 16 years in program management at AARP, 5 plus managing employee wellness programs for 1-800, or I'm sorry, 1,800 employees nationwide, Cynthia started the Intentional Wellness Experience and was certified as a health coach through the Dr. Sears Wellness Institute, initially offering programs such as Prime Time Health, Lean Start, and Wellness Vision Planning. Starting in 2020 and for the foreseeable future, the focus and thrust of the Intentional Wellness Experience has been on emotional health, with events and workshops leading into how to attain and maintain mental and emotional balance in an increasingly destabilized world. Most recent programs include an introduction to Reiki as an alternative to chronic pain management and stress reduction, and the ongoing facilitation of a participant study on the health benefits of essential oils. Upcoming programs include the importance of boundaries, social media and wellness, breathing and meditation, and the problem with perfection. Additional education includes a BA in psychology from Syracuse University and an MA in speech and interpersonal communications from NYU. Cynthia is the mother of two, a business owner, a jewelry artist, which I'm actually wearing Miss Cynthia's earrings that she made for me, and avid runner walker resided in Aldie, Virginia. And Cynthia can be reached at www.ilwealthforlife.com and email info@iwealthforlife.com. So without further ado, I would like to introduce both of our guests. So with that said, I am passing it back over to Miss Dr. Stacey N.C. Grant.
Oh my goodness. It's just such joy to bring these experts on our show today and to talk about this topic, which is so important with focusing on your wellness for you and your team. So, when we get into the questions, we really want to know what sort of policies and types of policies and practices business owners, real time issues, and here's a real time solution. What can they put in place to address COVID-19? I mean, everyone is going back to school, to work, things are opening up, but are we really clear about the types of policies and practices that small business owners can put in place to address this COVID? I don't want to call it a crisis. I don't even know what it's past the nightmare. It's this new reality that we're living in. But what can we do from a human resources perspective? Let's start with you, Latanya. What sort of practices can be put in place? And good morning, Diana, and to everyone else who is tuning in.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, we are in a crisis. The crisis just goes up and down. And in the current environment, I mean, all employers, small, medium, and large, I mean, they're just really just trying to do their best with policies and procedures and put things in place because number one, we've never been in a pandemic, most of us. And so we're really just trying to learn and implement best practices as we go along by paying attention to the science. So it's really about when you're putting these policies and procedures together, you're really bringing your expert teams together. So definitely your attorneys, your medical professionals, and really listening, you know, to your local and state laws, because those are going to play a big part of them as well as reaching out. And by this particular point in time, really reaching out and really listening, to understand what has been working in the past, what you think is going to work in the future for your employees, because things have significantly changed. Like we have lost a lot of women in the workforce, and a lot of people can't come back to the workforce. So, what kind of policies and procedures can we put in place or enhance around remote, hybrid um, working environments? A lot of people are really trying to get their workforce to come back this month, October. Many of them thought that they were going to come back a little bit in the summer. And as this Delta variant increased, many employers had to come back and say, okay, let's kind of maybe roll this out and bring people back at a later time. But it's really important that we really ask employees, I think, what is really going to work for them, because putting in a program, like a one program that fits all, is not really going to work for all of the workforce, because you have different people in your workforce and not everyone has access. And really employers are in a position where they can, whatever you're implementing, it's really important that we make it accessible to everyone. So it's really about bringing the experts to the table, those key experts. Your CEO is important. The business leaders, the operations team, if you have them. If you don't, definitely the CEO, your HR team. If you don't, reach out to outside resources. Definitely your attorneys, your local and your state resources. They have tons of free resources that are available that can help you put policies and procedures together. They have templates. Looking to the CDC, the WHO, all of these different medical providers and centers, really have put together programs and resources for businesses to help them get started, so they're not starting from scratch.
I love that. And the fact that you have to have all of these people on board. And for some small businesses, they might not have like an extensive
Right.
uh, staff of counsel that they can go to, or advisors. So before Cynthia gives her perspective, I would love for you to offer any additional suggestions. Like, what if you're a smaller operation and you don't have access to an extended staff of professionals? Where else do you find that they can go and gather this information, or whatever resources available to help them buffer until they scale their businesses to have full blown, attorneys and doctors consulting with them?
Yes, absolutely. Some of the top resources that I have found for small businesses, and including myself, because I can speak from that, it's very important that business owners, they really get connected to their associations. So if you don't have an HR team, have access to like the Society of Human Resource Management or the American Staffing Association. They have attorneys on staff, and they have provided and developed templates that they provide out to their members. In addition, if you think that, oh, well, maybe I don't want to necessarily become a member of SHRM or ASA, because that's not necessarily my field. Like, my background is also human resource management. So, for me, that's a natural association. But your chambers, your local chamber of commerce. I mean, I have been so proud to see so many different chambers of commerce really partner and advocate for small businesses of all types and sizes and ethnicities. So they really have partnered with other organizations. They really have toolkits available. So it's really important that you become members of different associations, because that's what your membership pays for. It pays for the advocacy. It pays for the tools and resources. So reach out to these organizations. And even if you don't want to become a member, perhaps you can partner with others who are members, so you can get access to the tools and the resources that you need. So, and if you don't have these people on, if you don't have staff that are, who are overseeing HR, the fees are very, very reasonable on an annual basis. They're about $200 for annual membership. So it's very much well worth the cost versus paying someone a couple of hundreds of dollars or even thousands of dollars to put together a full policy for you, where these associations have the templates and you can, insert the information and take it to an attorney to review, because that's really what you want to make sure that that you have something that's in compliant.
I love that. And I love the fact, and I hope everyone's picking that up, that you can join these associations as a small business. So you have access to more capacity for your human resources needs and developing these practices and policies because it's still new. I mean, a lot of people are still battling like, do you have to go back if everything is COVID safe? And attorneys are quite busy right now. And I'm curious to see what the law is going to end up doing in these cases because there are a lot of human resources cases that are now being litigated because of COVID and managing that. So I'm really glad we're talking about it. And Cynthia, would love to get your perspective as well from that wellness side. You know, what sort of policies and practices should really be put in place for people? This is all new to everyone.
Yeah, and okay, and thank you. And Latanya really pretty much covered it well in the sense that, I was going to say Chamber of Commerce because um, this is an area where you can network with other small businesses and kind of get their perspective on what they're doing because everybody is scrambling. The response is all over the place. We really, this is unseen and it's constantly changing. So how do you respond to something? It's like, we're in a war and we're basically trying to figure out what the enemy is going to do before we respond. And I mean, that just really leaves people in a place of not knowing knowing the right thing to do. So what I've seen pretty much, and I'm not coming from an HR perspective, but I'm coming from the perspective of someone just trying to work with companies. What I've seen is people just basically start with what their state says is going to be the rule of law for COVID. And after that, they're kind of having to just do what they think is best. And it's just going to it's going to be based on the business. It's going to be based on the size of the business as to how you can respond to this. You actually have so many people fighting just what I think is common sense protection. I mean, the stories are mind blowing. So then you have, as far as, and I'm sorry, your question is, as far as wellness goes, you have to basically make sure you are addressing that. So let me go back to with regards to COVID. In 2020, companies were already dealing with making sure wellness and mental health was a focus. The pandemic so greatly heightened that need to the point where you have to make sure that you are letting your employees know that you acknowledge what they're going through. You understand it. It's about communicating. I understand that wellness is a priority, and we're going to support that. So, yes, we have to get back to the business at hand, but companies have to acknowledge that they support wellness and put into place a constant way to communicate that. So, whether if you are unable to employ someone to focus on that role, and now we know through the virtual world of, virtual everything, there's so many ways in which virtually you can just put something in place that is going to be there for employees to access and, um, just get different ways in which to address wellness.
So I've been listening to both of you, and I think you both responded with such great information. But as Latanya, you were speaking, I thought about as people are going back to work, they either can get what is it, a religious exemption or a health exemption, and oftentimes these exemptions are being denied. So that's one thing. The other thing is that people have become accustomed to working from home, and they feel like they can be just as productive, but it allows them to once spend time with their children, to get a lot of other stuff done. And they are liking being at home. Nevertheless, they know they still have to work, but being able to navigate their environment, their life a little better. So wellness becomes very important. So I wanted to ask you, both of you, but Latanya, you from an HR perspective, because although businesses should be integrating, our organizations and our organizations should be thinking about wellness more, oftentimes they're denying the employees the opportunity to work from home, and they're saying, no, you need to come back to the office at this time.
So in this particular environment, employers have to understand that they're fighting not only COVID, but a shortage of talent.
Mm.
So for those employers who are not willing to be open, particularly in this particular environment, we're going on almost 2 years now for this pandemic. We're at the 18 month mark. We're getting ready to go on 2 years. And at this particular time, you really have a lot of companies who are really doing it well, approaching it well. And the reason that they're doing that is because they're truly, like Cynthia said, they're truly communicating from the top down, from the bottom up, and always in between. And they're involving their employees in the process to understand what works well. We understand some jobs are simply cannot, work remotely at home. We understand that. So let's become creative. And when we bring them back, to make sure that they're coming back safe, but also that you're retaining and rewarding that talent still. For those jobs where you thought initially, which many people thought, that certain jobs couldn't work, couldn't work from home, and then when they did, because you were forced to, you found that many employees were very successful in the role, worked longer hours. As we saw, many employees actually became burnt out. When you're denying employees the opportunity to work remotely, or the opportunity to work a couple of days remotely, or a couple of days to come into the office, and you're just not being flexible at all, what that says is, listen, it's really, there's no flexibility here. It's kind of my way or the highway. And so that sends a message to the employee that, you know what, there's this is not the place where I want to be. So I'm going to look for employment elsewhere. And that's what's happening. So employers really need to be mindful. They need to be thoughtful, and they need to think about not only COVID, but attracting and retaining their talent. We all know that everyone across the United States is struggling to find and to keep talent. And people are looking to go to other employers, or to just go out on their own and be their own independent contractors, and freelance, on their own. So you have to be mindful of that. And those are the things that they're going to face. So you have some employers who are just simply not getting it right. And I just think that they're not being open, and they're not leveraging their resources, and they're not taking the time to find out how this could work for our organization. So what's going to really unfortunately happen is they're going to find out the hard way when they lose great talent. And those organizations who are getting it right, they're going to allow their employees to flourish and say, okay, let's continue to try this out, and let's see where this goes. Because number one, I want to keep you safe. I want to make sure you have the flexibility that you have, and that you need, and that that you're able to thrive, and that you're staying with the company, and that you feel like the company can support you. And we're here to do that. Because I have heard from colleagues and other peers where they're just very thankful for their company, because number one, they continue to pay them bonuses, give them increases, and provide all of these wonderful resources for not only themselves, but for their families during the pandemic. So that's what they need to do.
Thank you, Latanya. And Cynthia, I was going to say, if you could address the question from, again, a wellness perspective, because when I think about that, I think, well, when businesses and organizations are asking their employees to come back, it is stress inducing for some of the employees. They are not ready mentally, or even from a practical perspective to come back, especially now with what's going on with school and everything, they have to navigate that. So I would love your perspective from from wellness.
So, from a wellness perspective, what you found was working, it became almost okay. Working from home almost became a place where it was more stressful than going to work. So, I greatly agree with Latanya with regards to hybrid flexibility. Uh, the burnout happened because people were not able to see any boundaries between work and their personal lives. It was just all meshed together, nonstop. You don't know when to put the devices down because hey, they're always available. Also, you had a great amount of people, as Latanya mentioned, women specifically, taking on the load of having to work with their children, trying to do online schooling, and they're trying to do online work, and it just became untenable. It was just too much. So businesses definitely need to understand flexibility. You have to ask your employees what is going to work for you. And employees need to be a little more understandable that, okay, this is a business though. These people do have a bottom line, but you're not going to get the best person if the person just feels like, okay, well, I'm just about making money for you. You don't care about the fact that I'm struggling here. So there has to be some balance and some sense of coming to the table from both parties, meaning the business as well as the employee. Um, Employees need to understand a little bit better that businesses are struggling just as they are to figure this out. So again, that collaboration and a company that is willing to hear what the employee has to say and try to implement some of what's going to make them feel better about coming back. Latanya is absolutely right. The best companies, the people who attain and maintain that talent are going to be the companies that, like I said, just make it known that we hear you. We're going to make sure to address address wellness matters, whether it's through the benefits, just different ways to incentivize employees, whatever the case may be. But we understand the communication, that we understand how important wellness is key. I mean, that's why I became wellness. I almost got tired of the word wellness. I mean, it was just everywhere. And it was like, what does that mean? I mean, it's an overall thing. It's not just health. Health is the physical manifestation of wellness, but wellness is financial. Wellness is mental. Wellness is everything. It is just a quality of life that is good, and you feel sound, and you feel that everything is working as it's supposed to work. So the company that understands how important that is will do better.
I love what you both shared about this. And I want to circle back just real quick before we continue on something Latanya shared about a company that was giving still incentives and giving considerations for family. It would seem to me that you get more productivity from employees if the employer, to your point, Cynthia, cares about the overall well being of their employees and instituting things that change the way maybe they did do business. So when we think about wellness from this global perspective that you just shared, Cynthia, I want to now move into another part of the question when it comes to how do you develop those programs. I think that's something that's really important, even for a small business, to look at how do we create wins for our employees during this new environment? What kind of program? Because the program might look a little different if you have 0 to 5 employees than if you have 5 to 10, or if you have over 50. So, what kind of wellness programs, keeping in mind this concept that it's not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, community wise, how do you feel? I would love to get both of your insights on how an employer and a small business can start to create or refocus an existing wellness program.
So, okay, did you want me to
Yeah,
go?
sure, Cynthia, you
Okay.
can jump right in.
Okay, sure. Okay, so yes, absolutely. It is absolutely going to depend on the size of the company. So with larger companies, you a lot of times, and almost always, wellness funds programming is built into your health plan. So then you go back over to, let's just say, the smaller company that may not even be providing health benefits, but you can still do things that let your employees know. First of all, as a small business, make sure to budget for your employees in some capacity. That could amount to one day a year that you're able to provide something. But you know what? You still provided something. Whether it's a fair, you brought people around, the mobile, I forgot what they call mobile unit that's going to help you to know your numbers. They're going to take your blood pressure. They're going to do cholesterol. They're going to do the little checks that you may not have gotten around to. A lot of people, and I come from a company, I came from AARP. This company, I mean, we had so much with regards to wellness. And one thing I recall, half the people didn't know what they had available to them. Then even if they knew, you had a problem giving the benefits away. I mean, I kid you not, because people become so focused on the work. So just almost forcing your employees to come away, like say, no, this is going to be a day in which we focus on what's available to you as an employee. And, we want to communicate, model that self-care is so important. So the programming can be as little as quarterly, just like I said, a day, an hour at the work site. And this is the thing, this is why workplace wellness has become so important. It is allowing the convenience of saying, okay, we're going to take some time away from what we're supposedly doing for the bottom line and focus on you, the employee. We're going to provide this convenience. We're going to provide a webinar that you can do during the workday, whatever that may be. Some if you work at a restaurant or whatever have you, that seems untenable. Okay, so then what we're going to do is provide paid subscriptions to these different platforms that in your time you can get to them. You can, like Calm. Calm is an online platform on your phone. Calm costs $70 a year. That's a lot of money for some people. You as the employer can take up that cost. So there are just so many ways in which, big to little, you're going to make sure to implement a program. If you are a large company, you should absolutely have someone who is focused on this. When I say focus, because like I said, you have so many employees who don't even know what they have available to them. So you're going to be doing things like a newsletter that's always just speaking to the different benefits that your different health providers have in place. You're going to do surveys to get feedback from the employees as to what they need. You're going to do competitions. Employees love competitions. They love ways in which they can come together and get incentivized around their wellness and get a little something in return. So it may be a walking challenge. All of these are things that employees love to do. If you're a small company, and like I said, you cannot dedicate funds to having an employee constantly communicating to your other employees, then again, subscriptions are available. But it starts with making sure that you have budgeted funds that say, I'm going to do something, whatever that is. If it's a gift card, if it's a retreat, if it's a um, money back, allowing employees to get reimbursements for the things that they determine they need for their wellness. I bought a bike during COVID. Can I get that reimbursed in the plan? There are so many ways in which to do it. So there's just no excuse, small or big. You have to be addressing it in some capacity.
And thank you for that. Before Latanya answers, something that you said is just sparking an idea when you talked about the small businesses and their capacity to add on to a health plan that may not exist or doing something different. What about even just a day of coffee for people who drink coffee or tea? Just having a beverage where a couple of hours out the day, you're not focused on the work deliverable, you're focused on like a check-in, an employee check-in. Those things don't cost money per se, because if people are feeling better about themselves and they're feeling better about doing the work and they feel like they're a part of the bottom line increasing, which increases bonus potentials and things of that nature. So I love that you shared that, especially for the small business, because so many of our audience members are in business with less than 10 employees. So this gives them opportunities to think a little bit differently. But Latanya, definitely looking forward to your response on this as well.
So when it comes to creating, wellness, programs, I'm always very thoughtful, particularly now, how can small businesses, really implement these things? Because again, staffing, resources, funding, these things are all, limited, and we know what large employers can do. But I cannot emphasize what Cynthia has said enough. You would be surprised the number of large organizations who have these employee assistance programs, these EAP programs, these wellness programs, and many employees don't know anything about them. They just simply don't know because they have so many benefit offerings that they just may hear about it one time a year and then that's it. So you hear about it, and usually that's around this time of the year, because this is when we do the health and welfare planning and your annual enrollment. So you usually hear about it around this time of the year, and this is a good time of the year to do that. But we need to be intentional about doing it more often throughout the year, especially with COVID. And some of the things I have seen, employers do, as far as you can just get so creative, outside of, employee assistance programs. I've seen people put together like virtual events, to really bring their employees together. So they'll have different virtual events, happening out like a virtual paint and sip, if you will, to really just kind of, stop what you're doing, get away from the work, and really get your mind in a more joyful, more exciting and uplifting environment, and just, take some time away from family and just work and just kind of do something different that just really just eases your mind. So, companies, really are, I've seen them just really get creative around being intentional about the types of virtual events that they try to put in place. And then as restrictions has eased, really trying to bring employees together in person, using social distancing for like, little mixers where and they're just so happy to see each other. Because one of the things that I have noticed, and I'm sure that you'll have noticed as well, is that people need people. Okay, people need people. Technology is great, but people need people. And so another thing that I like, that I think that is very low cost, that businesses, particularly small businesses, can do, is I really love implementing a wellness day or wellness week, if you will. And Cynthia, talk to this. I like where you talk about putting something together for your employees, where you have a panel of experts come in. Doctors and medical providers love to talk, and they wouldn't charge you anything for that. So having a panel of experts come in and talk to your employees on different wellness topics, including financial, as Cynthia mentioned, mental, physical, financial, all of these different things, incorporating having massage therapists come on board and give your employees, massages. And now in this particular time, if you're not going to be on site, maybe you partner with a massage therapy center where you can send employees, to those centers to receive massage, doing giveaways and prizes, to subscriptions, gym memberships, spas, different things like that. I think you just have to be creative because there are things out here that are low cost or no cost at all. Because again, big employers are spending a lot of money. And unfortunately, a lot of times those benefit offerings are not communicated and are not being utilized. I think particularly maybe within the last 18 months, they have been utilized and increased because wellness has been a great focus and has been increased. So they're starting to, really push these benefits are available. Please use them. Here's how to use them. Here are our partners because they're generally outsourced. But for small businesses, we can just do so many great things at no cost or low cost that, we just mentioned.
Well, I want to say thank you to both of you because you were so comprehensive in your answers. And our next question really is, and you may feel like you addressed this on some level because like LaTanya, you talked about being able to get massages, that may be something that an employer could implement for their employees. But if we look specifically at ways that we can, for ourselves as employers, as well as for our employees, reduce stress and anxiety. Is there anything else that you think is really important if we focus specifically on stress and anxiety? So I'll start with you, LaTanya. And
Sure.
Cynthia, we would love to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Sure. First and foremost, it's okay to say no. And no is a sentence, okay? No. No, no, no. So many times, we want to help everyone. We want to do everything. So many times people will pull you into their stuff and take you away from the things that you should be focused on. And it's important that we really stay focused and we really tell people that not at this time. I really can't do this at this time. And you need to know that that is okay. We need to know that that is okay because when we continue to say yes to everything, that's where the stress and anxiety comes in because now you're trying to please everyone in addition to completing all of the things that you have going on. So my number one is starting with no, learning when to say no. Also, the next thing is really carving out time. It's important for business owners to carve out time. I think the summertime and during the holidays is a great, time to do that, as well as offer that to your employees. So, like free Fridays or every other Friday off, half Fridays. Some people do this throughout the entire year. It's really popular during the summer months. So, from like May to September, free Fridays, half Fridays off, every other Friday off, really carving and really setting those boundaries. So for me on Fridays, you got to about a good 12:30, 1 o'clock p.m. for me in the morning. I usually make myself available. In the afternoon, it really, really has to be important and really specific to my business or, someone close to me in order for me to give you some business time. So we really have to set, those boundaries. Or, of course, if there's an urgent call from your employer. But we also have to communicate to our employees that we have to set boundaries as well to managers and to those that they manage. Okay. It's really not okay when you're sending messages constantly after 6 p.m. when the office is closed and on the weekends and you're expecting employees to respond. No, we need to set boundaries and we need to be respectful of other people's time. So really carving out time is critical and saying no and really just taking time to do the things that you love and bring you joy to really calm your stress and your anxiety. You know, stress is a normal part of life, but once we get to high levels of stress, then that's when it can affect our health, both mentally and physically. And if we're no good, then we're no good. If we're no good to ourselves, then we're no good to others. So it's important that we incorporate those things. And those are some of my top things.
Thank
So
you, Latanya.
if I could just jump in before Cynthia answers. So Latanya, are you saying that you can actually say no and not get in trouble for it?
You can say no and not get in trouble for it. Yes. Yes. Yes.
I just wanted to reiterate that because sometimes we don't know how to advocate for those boundaries in those spaces. So I'm glad that you did share that. Sorry, Cynthia, I just had to jump in on that. But back over to you.
No, I mean those. I mean that she honestly answered the question in the way I would have answered. I mean, boundaries are super important. And yeah, Latanya already made that point about employers have to model this type of behavior. They cannot um, uh, just because people are at home, contact people at any old time of the day. They need to have a set time in which, this is when the work is going to happen. And, after that, no more work. And in fact, mandated break during the weekday, is this from the personal point of view or from what employers should be doing? Just
Well,
Both
we
from
were saying from
employers.
the
Oh, go ahead.
employers.
Okay, yeah. So mandate breaks for your employees. Like make them tell them tune out. Like put that phone down. There'll be no more emails after such and such time. Because again, this is where a lot of the burnout happened. People couldn't even it all just fused together. People couldn't figure out where work began and their personal life stopped or whatever the case may be. So yeah. What else? I would say power napping. Power napping is definitely recommended. Like, give your employees a power nap break, a half hour in which to, like, again, tune out of all of the noise and the work, if this is possible, because again, you have people that their home life does not allow for this. So another thing that I would say is to, if you can, if it's affordable, provide some online access to a confidential helpline, even if there is even if you have to outsource. And I should have probably tried to find one to answer this because I didn't even really think about that. But give your employees information to places where they can call if they need to call someone for an SOS, because everybody cannot break away. Unfortunately, their home life is uh, because of COVID has created some really stressful arenas. So there is no escape. There is nothing that the employer can do except to maybe provide resources that they can call. Um, uh, the online virtual therapy, that's also, if you can afford to get some free sessions for your employees, that too may be something that you should look into. People now have gone to counseling and health coach now at a much more rapid pace because a lot of this is online now. So now you don't have to set up a time in which you can get there. So if you can provide support in that way, monetarily, some sessions for your employees, that may be something to look into as well.
I love that because there are free resources and there are hotlines. I know in New York City, we have a good portion of our audience that are functioning and operating businesses in the tri state area. New York City has the health hotline that's available. I know that there was another company that was advertising across the country on how you can log in if you're having trouble or if you're feeling down, because it looks different ways. And a lot of times employers and employees don't ask for help because they don't want to seem weak. But, the message is everyone can have a challenging day. Everyone can be going through situations. So as an employee, you should take advantage of what's being offered. And as an employer that may or may not have resources, look into the free resources that are available and maximize sharing that, or even having some sort of update that can go out to your team of 5, your team of 50, or your team of 500, that they can get access to this sort of resource to help them. Wow, this has been a lot, and I really hope that people have been listening in as we start to wind down and go through some additional resources. I would love to add to our pot of questions, so to speak. What other recommendations should we consider? What other things can small businesses really do? And maybe collaborate. Maybe there are multiple small businesses that can come together for that health week, maybe all in one area, maybe, something like that, that they can maximize the collaboration that we always talk about here on this show, and get some additional resources for that health fair or symposium. And doing a lot online, it's a lot easier to collaborate resources and open that up and make it available. So would love to hear some last thoughts for consideration as we start to wind down. So Latanya, want to start with you. Anything that you can think of that might be helpful as we think about wellness for you and your employees?
Absolutely. Can you all still see me? Because I lost the window.
Yes,
Yes,
we
we
can.
can.
Okay, great. I would just say, it's important from an employer perspective that we, an employee and employer perspective, is that we pay attention to the signs and we take care of each other. So it's important to listen and it's important to communicate, but just it's more important to listen and to observe others. And when you feel and see that people might be in need, that ask them, how can you help? Because so many people, have experienced so much during the pandemic and over the pandemic, that they have, a lot of their own experiences from a personal and professional that they could share. So I think it's just important that we pay attention to the signs, we be mindful and thoughtful, and that we take care of each other, and that we just always share resources. During COVID, a lot of times people don't like to talk about, if they, contracted COVID. Um, but it's important, you shouldn't be shamed for that. And you shouldn't shame others for it. We should talk about it and share best practices and resources so we can help one another, help each other cope through the process, particularly if you've experienced a loss for someone during COVID, or someone who's experiencing issues with mental health. That's even critical. So just talk to each other, and let's just, continue to share resources and protect one another as much as we can.
Thank you for that. And yes, we have to be our brothers and our sisters keepers, because
Yeah.
we've all gone through a lot. I don't think anybody can say they've come out of this pandemic season without being affected in some way. So thank you for sharing that. And Cynthia, over to you.
Yeah, and it's not much more I can add to that, because it this does require that we pay attention to each other and be there for each other and be supportive. Um, Something you mentioned, Dr. Stacy, was communities, and to the extent that people can create communities, or just with among their employees, just continue to keep that connection, so that we are, and when I say that connection, because people are zoomed out, to tell you the truth. I think it was Latanya said, we need each other. People need people. We do. But sometimes maybe not in the work environment. So providing opportunities in which we come together socially, and just because. And I would also say people have to do a lot of their own self-care. I understand employers have a responsibility, but unfortunately, employers are not going to know everything. Like someone said, people are not saying that something is wrong. So I have to, for the final of what I say, I have to bounce it back to the individual to take care of yourself. Be okay with taking care of yourself. Be okay with taking that break. Be okay with letting someone know if you feel like you're drowning. You're overwhelmed. You're not handling this in the way that you think you should. Just you have to be okay with taking care of yourself and saying, creating again, those boundaries are super important. I would suggest that everybody like literally dedicate, just like they do a goal, make it specific, dedicate 5 hours, let's just say, as a starting point. Whatever and not in the day, but in the week. And make sure you dedicate those 5 hours, however you spread them out. Even if you need more, take more. However you spread them out, but make sure you dedicate them to how you're going to take care of yourself. I don't know what that means. It may mean a bath. It may mean some junk TV, whatever it is. You have to take care of yourself. It's just like that adage with you have to put the mask on yourself before you can help anyone else. You have to take care of yourself. Your employers are not going to be able to do anything with someone who is just totally uh, uh, has had the breakdown. I mean, because they didn't put out the hand or, jump on the life raft, whatever the case may be. So I'm just going to say it's going to have to start with you and make sure whatever self-care means for you, whatever that thing is that lets you breathe and you don't feel like you're drowning, find what that is and make sure you dedicate some time to it every week. Do not do that. Do it. Just like work calls you, do it. I don't care. Your kids, sometimes everybody has to fall to the wayside and you take care of yourself. You have to. So that's my thing. You figure out what that is and just really take care of yourself and don't be afraid to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Cynthia, for that manifesto and that giving us the permission to do that. Because especially women, we take on everything and everybody, and it's so hard for us to do that because we're so accustomed to being jack of all trades, master of none. Like we are multitasking, doing a ton of stuff. So we appreciate that. So I'm going to pass it back over to Miss Dr. Stacey C. Grant as we start winding down, and then I'll just wrap it up. But Stacey, take it away.
Thank you, Danielle. And thank you, Latanya and Cynthia, for this dialogue. We really wanted to focus on the importance of taking care of ourselves. And let me just say, I'm just going to close with the fact, amen and amen to what both of you shared, because I had to make some adjustments in my schedule for an extended vacation, but I took a shorter one and really unplugged. And, that's something that as business owners, I don't know about everybody else, but I'll speak for myself. My brain is always going. So I literally have to intentionally focus on unplugging, releasing, and doing just what you said, Cynthia, some self care. And sometimes it's nothing, like absolutely doing nothing. That for me is a struggle. But when you do it, you feel so much better. Just exhaling, woosah, so that you can come back and be a great employer, be a great employee, and sometimes just be a great friend, right? Because when you're going through a lot and you're frazzled and you're afraid, who are you helping? You can't even help yourself. So I really hope that today's show was an opportunity for us to reflect on practices that we can put in place for our businesses, as well as holding ourselves accountable for the work. So Latanya and Cynthia, how can people contact you before Danielle closes us out if they want to continue the conversation, if they're interested in human resources support, Latanya, Cynthia, if they're like, look, I don't know where to start on the wellness program. Cynthia, help me, and help me figure it out. How can they contact both of you? Latanya, we'll start with you.
Sure. You can reach our office at 212-871-1221 or via email at hello@talentmix.com, and that's TALENTMIXX.com.
Thank you. And Cynthia.
Yes, I can be reached at info at I well the number four life.com. And my website is www.iwell4life.com. And yeah, I would love to hear from anyone just to say, hey, tell me what you're doing out there, because right now my business is events focused. So clearly, I have not been doing a lot because I want to do live events, but I am building my wellness community, and I welcome anybody.
Thank you both. And over to my beautiful co host, Danielle Douglas, to close us out for today.
Well, we are right at the 1 hour mark, so I'm going to keep it simple. I just hope that every one of you that has been part of this show this morning, you got something out of it, something that you not only can implement for yourself, but your employees as well, because our goal is to provide real-time solutions for real-time issues. And just as importantly, to address your needs as a business owner in a holistic way. So we ask that you tune in another 2 weeks, because we're going to be right here. We are your partners, collaborating with you on an ongoing basis. And we are committed to providing you real-time solutions for real-time issues. So thank you again. Have a fabulous day and a great 2 weeks until we see you again. See you soon.
Thank you for having me.